This is an instructional video on how to make a fluffy egg omelet using minimal ingredients and also minimum cooking materials. For this one, you will need eggs, diced ham, and butter. Those are the basic ingredients. You can also use other things such as salt or adobo. I usually just like to keep it basic. The butter itself will give the omelet the taste it needs. As far as cooking materials, all you need is just a frying pan, a nice working stove, and a fork. Let's get started. Preheat the stove like around, I'd say halfway, depending on the power of your stove and also the burner that you use. I usually use the large burner because it warms up a larger area of the frying pan. Once you preheat it, you go ahead and use the butter. This is not an advertisement, by the way. That's why I'm trying to keep the the brand name away. Spread the butter evenly on the pan, as so. The butter actually does two things. It will give a nice flavor to the omelet, and it'll also prevent the omelet from sticking to the frying pan as well. A lot of people use oil. I try to stay away from using oil just because it's my personal preference and it doesn't give it that nice flavor that butter does. Okay. Let's go ahead and spread this evenly here. I try to be a little generous on the butter, but not too much, because you try to keep it healthy as well. There we go. Now, for this occasion, I'm going to be making servings for two. So I'm going to use 5 eggs. Make sure you keep the shell out of the pan, of course. There we go. Just let it sit for a bit until it gets a little yellow around, and then start moving. Basically, you got to keep it beating in order for it not to stick to the pan or actually burn and get like the edges. That's what we're trying to avoid here. That's why we want to keep it nice and fluffy. Pay close attention to this area. You see how it starts to get hard over here? You want to make sure that you keep all that moving. That way it doesn't stick. And also you avoid the burning and the outer edges. If you notice that it's getting very burned or very hard very quickly, you might want to just turn down the fire just a bit. On electric stoves, it's actually easier to keep control of it because they don't put out as much fire as the gas stove. So you might want to use a lower setting on a gas stove. Okay. Once you have it like about just halfway fluffy and still liquidy, that's when you would want to put in the diced ham. I'll keep it out of the fire. That way it'll stay like that and it won't harden anymore. Put the diced ham as needed. You could be as generous or as moderate as you want with it. I usually like a balance between how much egg I put in and diced ham. I personally don't measure it. I just kind of go by eye. There we go. And just keep it moving. Just keep beating it. Keep it moving. That way you avoid, of course, you know, like I mentioned before, hardening or for sticking. The good thing about this is it's very quick. I mean, you don't have to be in the kitchen for like more than, I'd say, 10 minutes. We're making this nice, fluffy, delicious omelet. You can also add other things as well. I usually just use diced ham, but you can very well use bacon, any other diced ingredients. Notice how it starts getting a more harder texture, but because I keep moving it and flattening it out, it stays fluffy. If I let it sit for too long, it'll start getting hard and it'll defeat the purpose, and it won't, of course, be a fluffy egg omelet. Remember, the secret here is mostly the fire. You don't want to give it too much fire. You want to keep it as low as possible. You know, like I said, if you see it getting hard very quickly, lower the fire. If it stays very liquidy for a long time and you're not seeing it hardening it up, of course you might want to adjust the fire a little higher. And we're just about done. Has a great fluffy texture. Also, I forgot to mention, it's good to use a Teflon frying pan, and that way it'll also help avoid the omelet from sticking to the pan as well. And there we are. A nice, fluffy, delicious omelet. You can also add your own personal taste. I prefer, since I like cheese a lot, I usually just grab some grated cheese and I put it on it. I usually put the grated cheese while it's still on the frying pan. That way the heat will melt the cheese on the omelet and it'll just blend right in. It's delicious. And there we are. If you have any questions or, any tips, just feel free to message me. Have a good day.